Kerala is the most obvious place.
Message to YoIndiaTV viewers.
Well, just keep staying interested in India. You're now in America, but the country could use you. Your ideas, your goodwill, your support, all of that is something we really appreciate. And I hope you'll stay connected to your culture and the background that you left. Your homeland, even if it's no longer home, it's still your homeland. So cherish that.
Best thing you like about Shashi Tharoor?
Actually, we put a slogan, Kerala's son, India's pride. That means everything about him. So,
actually, he's a great writer, orator, and a great personality, very intellectual, and you know that we Indians are all proud of him to have, and especially the Malayalis, and there is no words to describe him. Actually, that's what I want to say.
And when you eat, each dish complements the other on your palate to give you a satisfying repast. That, to my mind, is the Indian idea as distinct from the American idea.
Shashi Tharoor, Indiyude abhimanam, logam kaarorthirunna naadam, tekku tekku ninnuyaratte, ee anandapuriyil ninnuyaratte. Shashi Tharoor, Indiyude abhimanam, logam kaarorthirunna naadam, tekku tekku ninnuyaratte, ee anandapuriyil ninnuyaratte. Shashi Tharoor, Indiyude abhimanam, logam kaarorthirunna naadam, tekku tekku ninnuyaratte, ee anandapuriyil ninnuyaratte. നയനന്ദത്തി കുലപതിയല്ലോ നമ്മുടെ സ്വന്തം സ്ഥാനാർത്ഥി. ശശി തരൂർ സിന്ദാബാദ്, ശശി തരൂർ സിന്ദാബാദ്. നയനന്ദത്തി കുലപതിയല്ലോ നമ്മുടെ സ്വന്തം സ്ഥാനാർത്ഥി. ഇവിടെ നാടിൻ നായകനാക്കാൻ നമ്മുടെ ചിഹ്നം കൈപ്പത്തി. ഇവിടെ നാടിൻ നായകനാക്കാൻ നമ്മുടെ ചിഹ്നം കൈപ്പത്തി. ശശി തരൂർ, ഇന്ത്യയുടെ അഭിമാനം, ലോകം കാറോർത്തിരുന്ന നാദം, തെക്കു തെക്കു നിന്നുയരട്ടെ, ഈ അനന്തപുരിയിൽ നിന്നുയരട്ടെ.
Hello everyone, we have Dr. Shashi Tharoor right here with us in Silicon Valley. Dr. Shashi Tharoor, as you know, one of the most intellectual politicians in India and currently serving as Member of Parliament from Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala, India. Welcome sir to YoIndiaTV with me Jasleen Khanuja, and I heard your beautiful speech in the Malayali event today. So how's the feel in the Bay Area this time?
Looks good. I mean, I was very happy that these various different 6 or 7 different Malayali organizations got together to have one function. Otherwise, it would have been too much. I'm also seeing the Indian Community Center people tomorrow, an even larger audience. I think about 300 have registered. And then there are the Thai, the Indus entrepreneurs having their conference on the 10th. So I've actually got plenty going on. Though I actually hadn't planned an official visit. This was a private visit to see my sister, niece, nephew, brother-in-law who live in the Bay Area, have been living here for 30 years now. And I just wanted to come and spend some time with them. But it so happened that one thing led to another, and now here I am. But talking to people, I'm very pleased to see a tremendous amount of goodwill and support for what I stand for and represent, and the values of my party during this big struggle that we are waging in India, which is a battle for India's soul, really. What is India all about? What does it mean to be Indian? Are we going to allow bigotry and intolerance and hatred to divide us, or are we going to be united in love and striving?
You've been representing United Nations at almost the top-notch level, but you exited, and not many Indians reached there. So what is it that you actually achieved? What is it that made you exit? And you're still the best-selling author. So what's your inspiration?
So very simply, I was able to make a difference to people's lives. That's what's always motivated me, whether in the UN or subsequently in Indian politics. How do you help people in whatever way to make a better life for themselves, either through big policy issues or through small local actions, as I'm doing in my constituency. If you come into government, then you have the whole national stage. When I was at the UN, I had the global stage. But these are all different ways in which you can make a difference to people's lives. What's my inspiration? That's my inspiration, a desire to make a difference. My writing is also a way of getting people to think afresh about issues that matter, both in my fiction and my non-fiction. I'm trying to provoke thought. That's what it's all about. Get people to think, and maybe as a result, the world will change.
When I came to know Tharoor is visiting Bay Area, I request Saju to see whether our community will get a chance to, interact with him. And Saju ji worked with IOC US, and they did all the help to make this event happen today. I'd like to thank IOC US to make it happen for us today. I know that Tharoor ji is here to visit his family. And thank you, Tharoor ji, to accepting our request and visiting your extended family here in Bay Area. On behalf of the Malayali Association and the entire Indian community, I would like to welcome the one and only Tharoor ji to Bay Area.
If you look back to the freedom struggle in India did not divide on ideological lines. It didn't break into Marxists versus capitalists or Democrats versus authoritarians. It divided on religious lines, with one group of people saying that religion should be the determinant of nationhood. That was the idea of Pakistan, and they created a country based on the idea that religion should determine nationality. And the others said, no, religion is not the determinant of nationhood. Our freedom struggle is for everybody, irrespective of religion, caste, creed, language, region, whatever. And therefore the country we are trying to establish is for everybody. That is the idea of India. And that idea of India was the basis for the constitution under which we're all living, and was the essential element that keeps such a varied pluralistic country together. Now, of all the bits of India where such an idea should be welcome, Kerala is the most obvious place. Because our entire history, as far as we know it, going back 3,000 years, is built on such a spirit. We have the oldest Jewish community outside Palestine. The destruction of the first temple by the Babylonians, oral legend has it, sent refugees to Kerala. We know historical fact that the destruction of the second temple by the Romans definitely brought Jews. And then when St. Thomas, doubting Thomas of the Bible, landed on the shores of Kerala, the legend is that he was welcomed on shore by a flute-playing Jewish girl. And at no stage in the entire history of the Jewish people has there been any other Jewish diaspora that never suffered a single incident of anti-Semitism from the host population. They were completely welcomed, integrated, allowed to live, allowed to practice their own faith as they saw fit, allowed to carry on their own social practices, and still were seen as part of the national fabric of Kerala. I just want to conclude by saying that I hope all of you continue to contribute effectively to the American melting pot. This is now your country for the most part. I think almost everybody here is not an Indian citizen anymore, you're American citizens. But that's fine, because in our country, our hearts are big enough to welcome all of you. Those of you who are still Indian citizens, of course, have every entitlement to come, to vote, to participate. But those of you who are now Americans, I don't think that we would have any embarrassment in saying that the very qualities that make you a good Indian, the very qualities that I tried to describe and summarize just now, are the qualities that would make for good ingredients in the American melting pot. And that is, after all, both sets of ideas, the Indian idea and the American idea, are of a country where it doesn't matter what religion you practice, what color of skin you have, what language you speak, what kind of food you like to eat, what God you wish to worship or not, as the case may be. So long as you play by the same rules as everybody else, you can dream the same dreams as everybody else. That is the great strength of that core idea that I call both the American dream and the idea of India. And as long as you have come from India with that conviction, that set of values and beliefs, it seems to me you can definitely be very successful in this country, and you'll be very valued members of the newly formed American nation, continually being formed and reformed through immigration. I wish you all great success and happiness in this country. Always, of course, as you have shown today, keep involved with India as well. Keep your interest alive in your homeland. I was so struck to see a young girl like Akshaya singing so beautifully in Malayalam, a prayer song that I hear very frequently in Kerala, but to hear it here in California was to me a matter of a very pleasant surprise. So congratulations.
കാന്തി കാണുവാൻ കണ്ണിനാകേണമേ നല്ല വാക്കിൻ്റെ ശീലു ചൊല്ലുവാൻ നാവിനാകേണമേ സ്നേഹമാകുന്ന ഗീതമോ എൻ്റെ കാതിലിണയാകണേ സത്യമെന്നുള്ള ശീലമോടെൻ്റെ ശാന്തി അറിയണമേ
And keeping up this connection to your roots is something that is difficult to translate across generations. It's not easy. I mean, my own parents are both from Kerala, but were part of the diaspora within India. Well, initially they were both in England, but they moved back to India after I was born. I grew up in India. But they were in Bombay, Calcutta, Delhi. They were not in Kerala. And so already my sisters and I had to acquire our connection to Kerala and to Malayali culture by going home every year for holidays to Kerala. Now that my sisters are living abroad and I'm living mainly in Delhi, the geographical distance is complicated by the fact that our children are no longer, shall we say, directly connected. Those of them who are married are all married non-Malayalis. Their interests and their exposure, their orientation to the world is now much more reflective of the countries in which they are now living. And we recognize that through immigration and immigration there will be a dilution of a certain dilution of cultural identity is inevitable. But it need not be a matter of regret if you can be everything. I was very struck by the fact that my niece, that is my sister Shobha's daughter, who is a professor at Arizona, Tucson, a university professor, her husband is part Jewish and part Christian from the American South. Their daughter, with all this complicated heritage of Kerala, of the Mississippi, and of Eastern Europe in her lineage, is named Malayali. And when the children in the school had to dress up in various costumes, she was out there in a sari with a bindi on her forehead, very proudly insisting to American children that they had to call her Malayali and not any short form thereof. So in many ways it is possible to hold on to this aspect, these aspects of your culture, of your heritage, because they're also part of who you are. Obviously, because she's living in America, the other aspects of her heritage will inevitably dominate. But her mother and her grandmother will not let her forget that she also is connected through them to a different culture, which is as much a part of her identity as the identity of being young American misled. So all of this is part of life in this country. I think it's wonderful that you have an opportunity to participate in it. Make sure that you don't melt completely away from India into America, but that is part of your melting in this melting pot. You hold on to a little bit of what we're all about. I used to tell American audiences 30 years ago that, you call yourselves a melting pot, we are not a melting pot in India. I say in India we are a thali. We're a collection of different dishes, each of which is in a different bowl and therefore doesn't necessarily flow into the next. But we belong together on the same plate. And when you eat, each dish complements the other on your palate to give you a satisfying repast. That, to my mind, is the Indian idea, as distinct from the American idea.
Awesome. So, we have been seeing you go to the British government after 100 years of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre and ask for apology. And we got some kind of a response. I don't know if you were satisfied with that.
I was.
But what's your take with it, and what inspired you after 100 years to talk about this incident and go back?
Well, frankly, Jallianwala Bagh has scarred the nation's history. In many ways, it was a turning point in the nationalist movement. Even people like Mahatma Gandhi, who had supported the British in the First World War, turned against them after Jallianwala Bagh. Sir Rabindranath Tagore, as he then was, returned his knighthood, saying that he didn't want a British honour in the incongruous context of national humiliation. Many people became conscious of their Indianness with this terrible event. So it was always very important to us. But the British have never apologised. And what I wanted was an apology for the entire history of colonialism, not just for one event.
Yeah.
So Jallianwala Bagh was worse in some ways as a symbol of what the colonial evil represented, because it followed a betrayal of promises made in the First World War to give India more responsible self-government through Dominion status. Never happened. It was a ruthless suppression of legitimate protests against the Rowlatt Acts and other methods of oppressing the Indian people. It was, on top of that, done with great cruelty. Not only were innocent people killed, no warning was issued, no one was told that your gathering is illegal, you have to disperse. They were just shot dead. And then, after all of that, people weren't even allowed to tend to the bodies for 24 hours. They were just left to rot in the hot sun. The sheer cruelty and wanton racism of what followed when Indians were made to crawl on their stomachs in a narrow alley and not even lift their heads, or they were bashed in with British rifle butts. And then after all that, the British actually raised a fund for General Dyer, who had done these killings, and gave him a lot of money to celebrate his action. To me, all of this symbolized the worst of what the colonial enterprise was and could be. And so I wanted, through this incident, the centenary of which was conveniently following, after the book I wrote about all this, it was within that time, I said, when this comes, this is the time for you to apologize. The British, as you know, expressed regret, which is still short of an apology. I think regret is better than the previous statements by the earlier Prime Minister, but it's still not enough. I mean, when you look at what Justin Trudeau did in Canada, 100 years after the Komagata Maru incident, in which a shipload of Indian refugees was turned away at gunpoint from the port of Vancouver, and many of them perished, and he said sorry, he really apologized. Whereas with this people, the British, it's still been somewhat mealy-mouthed. I will say that it's a good step forward. They said something, but they need to say more than that. They need to truly express remorse and atonement. They need to start teaching the history of the colonial rule in their schools. Right now, you can do A-levels, the highest school degree in Britain, and the best schools in Britain, and never learn a line of colonial history. This must stop. And their museums are all chor bazaars. They ought to admit that these are stolen goods from countries that they ruled and oppressed. So all of these things still remain to be done. And I think people have to wake up and realize that the history of colonialism cannot be just brushed under the carpet as the British have been doing.
Perfect. That was really awesome.
It's a bit rich to oppress, enslave, kill, torture, maim people for 200 years and then celebrate the fact that they're democratic at the end of it.
Awesome. Final message to YoIndiaTV viewers.
Well, just keep staying interested in India. You're now in America, but the country could use you. Your ideas, your goodwill, your support, all of that is something we really appreciate. And I hope you'll stay connected to your culture and the background that you left. Your homeland, even if it's no longer home, it's still your homeland. So cherish that. All the best.
Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.
തിരുന്നനാദം തെക്കു തെക്കു നിന്നുയരട്ടെ ഈ അനന്തപുരിയിൽ നിന്നുയരട്ടെ
We have the president of MANCA, Mr. Sajan Muliplakal. So Sajan, what's the best thing you like about Shashi Tharoor?
I don't have any words to describe him, actually. He's a great writer, orator, and great personality, very intellectual, and we Indians are all proud of him to have, and especially the Malayalis, and there is no words to describe him, actually. That's what I want to say.
So what are your main events?
We conduct various cultural and sports events that will promote all enthusiastic team members who are supporting MANCA and all other active members in the Bay Area. So we have cultural programs like Onam and Christmas, those kind of the main cultural programs. And also we have sports and cultural program like picnic and sports day and dance fest and those kind of things that promote our culture of India and Kerala as well.
What's the best thing you like about Shashi Tharoor?
Actually, we put a slogan, Kerala's son, India's pride. That means everything about him. So I don't need to describe anything about him. He is a Kerala's son, India's pride. Malayalathi paranjal, I tell in my mother language, Keralathinte Priyaputran, Bharatathinte Abhimanam. That's all I want to describe him. And actually I represent the FOMA, Federation of Malayali Association of America. It's a national organization of Malayalis in Canada and USA. And FOMA and Bay Malayali is our member organization. You know, we take MANCA and other Malayalis to national level here. Thank you.
So what do you call these?
Actually, this is from Kerala. It's called Chenda. So we, for the functions and everything, you always use this one for for the celebrations, for any special occasions, we always use this chanda. Yeah.
Is there a special way you guys play it?
Yes, we have different, rhythms and different bass. We always, we learn from different instructors and we practice. So we have the whole crew here. So thank you so much.
What's the name of your brand?
Actually, Bay Area Chanda.
It's the band is Bay Area Chanda.
Yes, exactly, Bay Area Chanda. So we have a group here. So we always, play for different functions, church functions or temple or mosque, any function. We will go and play it. Yes.
Beautiful percussion instrument. How do we play it?
So basically, we start from. We have different rhythms. We just play accordingly. Yeah.